Welcome to the Positively No Gambling Podcast, a pro football show that is definitely not about betting. My name's Glenn Fraser. It's Saturday, August 2nd, and this is the 2025 team preview for the Atlanta Falcons. Oof, the Falcons, the least fun team to talk about, I feel like. Okay, to go through these preview formats, we talk about two big questions from the beginning of the offseason. We recap 2024, overview 2025, preview 2025 schedule, look at a few trends and stats to point out, ATS leans, and conclude on our big questions before giving a preliminary over-under pick. The final over-under picks will come right before the start of the season during the NFC and AFC previews. That said, let's dig into the Falcons. Okay, the two big questions are, can this defense significantly improve? They brought in a new defensive coordinator. Obviously, they made a few big swings in the draft. We'll get to that and what that might mean for their defense in 2025. And then the second is, will Penix Jr. be a viable starter? Can they rely on this guy? Can he bring their offense up to the heights that I think a lot of us think it could get to? To recap 24, they finished 8-9, which was good for second in the South. Did miss the playoffs though. They kind of were competitive right until the end with the Bucks. They started 6-3, ended 2-6. That this sort of middle part of the schedule was really brutal before they switched over to Penix. Cousins started off okay, made that decision look a little bit smart, but it was pretty clear to all of us by mid-season-ish that they were just not going to be a playoff team with Cousins, and finally they make the decision to go to Penix. We all know how that went. Things got a little bit better towards the very end, but a little too late. Um, in terms of their schedule, they were 3-6 against playoff teams. They had the 22nd ranked schedule, so definitely a trickier schedule. They had the 32nd, the most unlucky schedule, the worst luck when it comes to schedule in terms of maybe what they thought these teams were going to be versus what they actually ended up being, how good they ended up being. That stretch at the beginning with Philly and Kansas City, home game against the Bucks, and they won a few of these games, more than a few of these games. So things were looking good for them last year, and then bottom fell out. They had to switch to Penix, etc. Beyond that, nothing really jumps out. They were 500 in one score games. I'm calling this a mediocre team with a mediocre roster. That's what the stats showed us last year. And Cousins staying on the roster this year as an incredibly expensive backup. So he's still there as a potential trade deadline solution for some teams, but I doubt you're going to get much for him at this point in his career. Moving over to the 2025 offense overview. They lost Drew Dalman. That was a big, splashy signing that the Bears made to shore up their interior offensive line. Lost a rotational guy, Rondell Moore, receiver to Minnesota. And they really didn't add much. They added Jamal Agnew from Pittsburgh, sort of a backup, and Jack Nelson they drafted, but he was a late round pick. Nobody expected to start that has come onto this team. Um, just visually speaking, matches what we think of this team, right? Pretty damn good offense. Bijan Robinson, Drake London's a very solid pass catcher. They have some good talent on the line. Their guard, Chris Lindstrom, is really talented. Jake Matthews is good. X Factor, obviously Penix without him really playing as some people expect him to, others don't, without him being a top, not even a top 10, but a top 16, top 18 type quarterback. This entire team won't really improve much versus last year. And really nobody's make or break. It's only year two for Raheem Morris, but an ownership group like Atlanta tends to get impatient and could technically move on if they don't get the production that they expect out of this offense. So honestly, a pretty solid offense. I don't think that this will be the weakness of their team in 25. Moving on to the defense. Whew, boy, just look at all the names in and out. They lost Justin Simmons. They lost, who's still a free agent. They lost Matthew Judon, who's still a free agent. Lost James Williams, who's still a free agent. Grady Jarrett, Eddie Goldman. None of these are big time names. Now let's get into what they've added. So the biggest the biggest criticism of Atlanta last year was their lack of pass rush, and it truly was abysmal, terrible. So, of course, that was going to be a target in the offseason, and the Falcons did what the Falcons do, which is trade back into the first round, sacrifice next year's first round pick to trade to the Rams to draft James Pierce Jr., in addition to Jalen Walker. Two good edge prospects without a doubt. Um, I, oof, boy, I don't know if this is going to move the needle in year one, but it's at least something. In terms of other starters that they've added, Jordan Fuller at safety, Divine Diablo at interior linebacker, Leonard Floyd coming over from San Francisco, Morgan Fox coming over from the Chargers. We've got several new projected starters. You can't say that they didn't address the defense because they did, and how much that's going to improve this team and make them into a contender to win the division and go deep into the playoffs is to be seen. It's a question mark. In terms of blue chips, definitely like safety Jesse Bates. High potential is Caden Ellis, the linebacker position, and the two rookie edges. They if they get what they expect to get out of them, especially early, this could turn into a pretty formidable pass rush and a much better, much improved defense. Rookie edge rushers, obviously, are the X factor. If they could come in and step in, that will turn this team potentially in a positive direction. And again, really not a make or break. This was not a good defense last year, but it also wasn't one of the league's worst. Raheem Morris, I'll just continue to put on the hot seat given the situation he's in Atlanta and the expectations of the ownership. Preview the schedule, 25 schedule. It looks like the 13th easiest ranked schedule based on the 2024 results, or the 14th easiest schedule, or the fourth easiest schedule, sorry, so based on 25 over under. So definitely an easier looking schedule. Tough at home, very easy on the road, which is a little bit tricky because the Falcons really don't perform well against the spread at home. So this tough schedule could be even worse, given their history of not being able to cover the spread at home. Tough start. You're talking about home game against Tampa, division winner, home game against Washington. Oh, I think that's a Europe game. But even so, designated home game against Washington, that will not be easy at all. Coming off by, you get the Bills. Tough, tough, tough. The middle part here looks obviously softer. They need to take advantage of this section here from week 7 to week 14. They need to start racking up the wins. Some of these road games, easy road schedule, it's means in New England, in Indy, in New Orleans, in New York for the Jets. Those are games you gotta win a couple of those if you're expected to go to the playoffs and win the division. Some advanced stats, just trends versus that we're looking at last year, and some against the spread leans. The Pythagorean expectation wins were 7.7 versus 8 actual wins. So pretty much this was the team that we got. Their win is what was reflected in how they played. Close games, they were completely 500, 6-6. Nothing jumps out in the turnover differential or the win increase from the prior year. Again, that schedule luck was really, really unfortunate and bad luck for them last year. No guarantee that turns around, but you could probably bet that their easy looking schedule this year will at least won't become a brutal schedule by the end of the year. Good O-line, terrible pass rush. Keep talking about that. Some 3-year trends, really nothing jumps out. This has been a team that has performed um, per their expectations, meaning they didn't overachieve, they didn't underachieve, and they've missed the playoffs the last couple of years. So they're what their record says they are, which is pretty mediocre. I can't get too crazy with the against the spread leans this early on with them because they just don't play well at home, and their home schedule is tough. But I did find one week 3 at the Panthers. They're a underdog. I don't think anybody should be an underdog against the Panthers. We'll get to them a little bit later, but I think that's a decent play as of right now. Again, this dangerous combination of home schedule that's tough and bad ETS performance historically. And just the normal don't bet on the Falcons, don't bet against the Falcons. They're a really, really tough team to get a read on. And fifth and 25 will have no exceptions because I don't know what Penix will be. Which gets us to whether they've addressed their big questions regarding their defense and Penix. And it's not a great answer on both of them. They might have, and maybe he will be a good starter. Now, they're over under 7.5. We looked at their schedule. Their division is pretty soft. Their opponents are manageable. So at 7.5, I would take the over, but this is not something I'd be running to bet. They probably will be contenders for the playoffs. The only real route they'll get is if they win the division, which I still love Tampa. When we get to Tampa, we'll go into that. It's not worth a bet to win their division, given their current odds. They're not a huge underdog or anything like that. If I had to make a prediction regarding the playoffs, I would say that they will miss it. And it's going to come down to Penix and his ability. Can he take that small sample size of success that he did had? Because he did look pretty good in 24. But can he apply that to an entire season with the pressure of being the starter from day one, more tape? Um, that's really the question, and I'm not willing to bet that he will at this point. I wouldn't. I think this team gets to 8, 9 wins max, maybe 10. I mean, you're not talking about a real contender here with the Falcons. All right, that wraps up the Falcons. We will move on to the Ravens tomorrow, which is a much more exciting team to talk about. Thanks.